ZBA. We are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everyone to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for April 8th, 2025. We have two scheduled hearings this evening. I'll read the first one into the record. The applicant is Susan Gross and Adam Cohen at 37 Driftwood Lane in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-24-7-24. Size and location is 16,500 square feet at 37 Driftwood Lane, Driftwood Shores, Lot 37, map number 3012, filed July 9th, 1959, in Springs. The description is to allow the building height to remain at 29 feet, where 25 feet is the maximum allowed, and to allow AC units to remain within side yard setbacks. Relief sought is variances of 4 feet and 5 feet pursuant to 551110 of the East Hampton Town Code to allow the residents to have a flat roof with a height of 29 feet where 25 feet is required, and to allow the AC units to remain 5 feet from the side yard lot line where 10 foot is the minimum required, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B residence, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. I'll turn this over to the vice chair for a report.
Thank you. I was at the property today. As you can see, it was properly noticed. It was on the building, but it was visible for the road, from the road for the neighbors to see. So I think it's fine. Next, please. This is, I'm actually standing on Driftwood Lane, and this is the north side of the dwelling facing south from Driftwood Lane. Next, please. This is the east side of the dwelling facing west. Thought I'd just give you another visual of the roof that's in question. And again, I'm standing on Driftwood Lane. Next, please. This is the south side of the dwelling facing north, actually the rear of the property. Next, please. This is the AC units that are in question. I'm actually facing north, I'm facing north, but this is the AC units that are in question before us tonight. Next, please. I thought there was one more. Yes. I just wanted the board to get a full visual of the rear of the property and how it looks. I think that might be it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan.
Do we have the applicant here? If you come and announce yourself and your address.
My name is Robert Strada, and I am representing Susan Gross and Adam Cohen, the owners of the property.
And you're an attorney?
No, I'm a builder. Although I had nothing to do with the building of this.
Okay, I'll have to swear you in.
Please.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And so these folks are friends of mine. And I live here and do a lot of work in historic preservation and don't typically find myself in a situation like this. But it seemed to me that there were all sorts of mistakes that were made, and I'm just trying to help everything sort of be resolved. It started when I first received Dawn Green's list of 13 items, which goes back to April of 2024. And I met with Dawn and we went through this punch list and decided that let's take the most difficult one to work on, because we have active building permits. And thank you for visiting the site today. And thanks for commenting that someone took the time to put up that notice properly. It was a cold day when I did it. So we have active permits to cover everything that's on Dawn's list, but these permits expire on May 6th. So that's part of why we're trying to move things along. So the most difficult one here is the fact that you've got a building that's been erected 29 feet high where the code clearly says 25 feet is it. Now, I'm going back to 2017. This is all pre-COVID, and I had nothing to do with the design or the building of the structure. But Steve Lemansky of Southampton Engineering did. And I am not quite sure why they did not consult with their client at the time to explain that this is a great idea and it's a wonderful looking modern building, as you can see from the photographs. But it's too tall. And it was prepared properly. Lemansky's plans, which you all have a copy of, and the cover sheet I deliberately left on because it shows that these have been accepted as permit number 65225 in the building department 8 years ago. And with that go-ahead, they built it. And I mean, I have no idea, as I said earlier, mistakes were made. I have no idea how this happened, but it was built, and it stands there today as you saw it on the site when you visited the site. I think aesthetically, it's a very pleasing building. And when you take into consideration that if it were a gable roof, you'd be allowed to be 30 feet high. But it's a flat roof. But this flat roof is so small, I don't want to say it's innocuous and unimposing and all of that, but it sort of is. And it's an integral part of this modern design. And that's why we're here looking for relief. It would be really a burden, more than financial, but it would be a financial burden to take off 4 feet from the top of this house, and it would totally distort the design aesthetic that exists today in the house as you see it. So that's the first reason why we're here. Why these plans were approved and stamped and entered into the system and how it got built, it's a story I don't even quite understand, but it happened. And the other item has to do with the air conditioning, which is a separate matter. But I wonder if we can just discuss the height of the building, which is the critical item.
Does anybody have any questions on the height?
Well, architecturally, something else could have been done. You had 30 feet to work with and you're at 29 feet. That had been a pitched roof, we'd have a different discussion. Now it's not a pitched roof. If you want to get to whether or not an enclosed staircase was necessary, if it's going to be within the house, you have to have some enclosure over it. So it seems to me there were options here. There were options that were not examined by the previous builder.
Or the building department.
Or the building department, I'll give you that. But nonetheless.
Well, I'm not here trying to make it, I'm not here to, I work with the building department. I'm not here to condemn anybody.
No, we know. We're all just dealing with the situation and what's
Right.
the best thing to do. But nonetheless, we still have 4 foot beyond, the zoning regulations on this that you're asking for relief on. That's a big ask.
Well, it's 4 feet. I mean, could we go back to the photographs again instead of the plans? Is that possible? Any elevation. Can we do the front elevation? This is that's the backyard,
The
but if you look
backyard.
at the one from Driftwood Lane,
That one.
that one, and admittedly, it's shot from the road because you see all the landscaping, even though it's winter, in the foreground. I think the idea here is that when they presented this, when they submitted this drawing set, this permit set of drawings, that was the time for somebody to say, whoa, wait a minute, you can't approve this, or you need to, where somebody needs to stand where I'm standing right now tonight, 8 years ago, saying, hey, we need to do this. And in a way that's more proactive than here I am, hat in hand, you might say, trying to explain, how did this ever happen?
I mean,
But it did.
if you look at the drawings are very clear that it said 29 feet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and because I'm not the builder and I'm not the architect, I do a lot of this work, I am scratching my head to think, how did this happen? But it did.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. May I? Hi, Mr. Strata.
Hi.
And just as an aside, thank you for all your preservation work and follow all those things you've done. Thank you, but
We all
not
live
relevant here, but. I
and you're
wanna
standing in
indulge
one
it.
of my favorite projects, or sitting in one of my, I'm standing.
Anyway, so I have a couple questions. So
Yeah.
I know you referred to this being I'm going to call it the tower. It's a little overstated word, but it's germane, you said, to the sort of the aesthetic and the architectural. But what is the actual functional purpose? I know that there was a roofed upper level deck added, but people find ways to get to their roof decks by different means. So I want to understand functionally what was the purpose of it?
I think you sort of hit the nail on the head, which is this could have been possibly done or considered other solution possibilities could have been examined to arrive at the same purpose, function. And I don't know. I wasn't there in 2017 when this was proposed. I will tell you, though, and here I am talking about Bauhaus and things that I have no great feeling for, but I do have a great sense of aesthetic and balance. And maybe they had that same sense at the time. I'm not saying they knew the code or even acknowledged what they were doing was wrong, because my clients had no idea. The owners had no idea of this constraint. And for all I know, Steve Lemansky, who I've known for many years, may have thought in his mind while they're laying all this out, oh no, the building heights, you can do 30 feet. So maybe in his mind, he's thinking it's a foot smaller than it has to be. Even though all you've got to do is look at the code and realize it's a flat roof, not a gable roof, and it should be 25 feet high. But to find an answer to your question, the people aren't even around to explore that with. I mean, there probably are other ways to have achieved this at the time. Not that I know what they are, without really delving into the structure of that building. I can't tell you how it's framed. I can't tell you anything other than the moment I picked up these plans the moment I foiled the file and saw these plans, I started scratching my head on a regular basis.
You mentioned sort of a punch list of 13 items from
Oh, yes.
Dawn. I'm assuming that's
Dawn's
Dawn
very
in
good.
the building department?
Yes.
Was that submitted into the record, that list, that communication? I didn't see it.
Is there any part of that list that is
A nexus to this?
a nexus to this, is part of this hearing, other than?
No.
So
Right.
if it's
So
not,
it's not
and
relevant.
is a building department,
I'm
then
happy to
I would
submit
say
it
it's not
if
necessary.
you really want
but-
it in the record, but.
I'm not
but
saying you referenced it as,
Second floor bathroom needs a fan.
Yeah.
okay,
it's
okay.
not-
that's
Oh, wait a minute, I have a
These are
window.
punch list
Isn't that
items
good
that I
enough?
don't
Well,
think
maybe.
we need to get into, but
What's
we
the
have
date?
two matters before us, and that is the tower and the AC units.
AC units.
Let's stick with that.
What is the date on that document?
Happy to tell you. It's an email from Dawn Green to me, and it's dated April 22nd, 2024
Oh, okay.
at 3:59 PM. I guess everybody had just sort of come in from the field, and Dawn was replying to an email that I had sent to her asking for clarification on some things, which she clarified.
I'm just looking at the property card for
Right.
that property, and that building permit, 65225, was issued November 15th, 2017.
Yes, I
And
have a copy
included
of the
in that
permits
was
here
a-
with me.
A first floor addition, second floor addition, first floor deck, and a spa. No mention of a second, a roof deck or anything else.
But it's linked to the permit number.
Well, yeah, it goes on. In June of 2018, there was a letter changing contractors. There was a letter from a Jose Jimenez.
A whole other story. But
Yeah,
I'm
it is,
happy- I'm happy
apparently.
to share it with you.
But somewhere the spa, the roof deck came into play when there was
But it came into play, and I don't mean to cut you off, and my wife tells me all the time, I've got to let people finish their sentences, so forgive me. It all goes back to this permit on these plans, and these plans say that the building is going to be built 29 feet high, and they built it. I don't think that any of that changed after the permit was issued on November 15th of 2017. That's to the best of my knowledge. Remember, I'm under oath. So,
When was the work completed?
years ago, it was, I'm going to say that it was completed around the time of COVID. So was it exactly completed before March of 2020? I see some notes here from 2021, of some back and forth. So I'm going to say it's at least 4 or 5 years old that it's done. And it may be a little more than that it was built, finished.
Any other questions on the tower? We still have to address the AC units. AC units, we probably have to do, I mean, what's your suggestion on the AC units?
Well, we're because of the circumstances on the site, we're asking to leave them where they are.
What are
Now,
the circumstances?
The circumstances are, I mean, there were issues of related to the soil and the ground and the area where it exists. If for some reason you have trouble in accepting our request for a 5-foot relief on that, then we'll have to conform and move them the 5 feet and make them conforming at 10 feet. I mean, the owners aren't going to object to that.
You did have another area with pool heaters and different units.
And they could go there.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I don't know if they could
that's a
go
heavy
there,
burden. You have
but
limitations
I
as
don't know.
you have limitations on AC units as to the length of the
They could go next to
lines
the
that can
house.
go.
See, if they were you're exactly right. If they were carrier units, they could be 300 feet from the house.
Mhm.
They're not. So I mean, if the 5-foot, if our request for leaving the AC condensers where they are is denied, I'm trying to get this to conform. Remember, I've got 12 other items on this list that we're working on. We'll move the condensers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
No, I'm good.
I'll have questions
I'm
for
good
the
too.
planning department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Morgan?
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
Hi, Morgan. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I think a lot of the factual things have been covered already. There was a building permit issued in 2017 depicting the 29-foot height. The AC condensers are within the side yard setback. Otherwise, it pretty much conforms to other aspects of the code. To my knowledge, I know that the building department has their own list of things, but I think those aren't really of a concern to the board tonight. If the board has any specific questions, I could do my best to answer them about the property.
Anybody have any questions for Morgan?
No.
Actually, don't.
I guess obviously I think the building card here is, the property card is important, but sorry. I guess I know we see these plans stamped and then someone wrote 65225 on them, but I guess I'm still not clear. I guess I feel like what's missing here is more info from the building department. So just to fill in some of the blanks.
Can I ask a question, Morgan, to clarify that? Maybe on the first document of the building plans, there's a Town of East Hampton plans, has a barcode on it, sequence number 00011. Is this an official, and it references the building permit attached to these drawings?
Yeah,
Can
so,
you testify that this is a legitimate document from within the Town of East Hampton?
yes, I can pull the
So
same exact document.
This particular page does correspond to the building plans to this permit?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, but I have the same concern there. In 2018, 67153 permit was the one that amended this permit, 65225, And in that, it did add in a roof deck and other items. Do we have any further plans or information that would be listed under that amended permit? I mean,
The permit that is in the building permit file, I could pull that and add it to the file if the board wants to leave the record open for me to do that.
yeah, I think I'd like to see that.
Okay, the full, and which building permit number was that?
67153, 12/27/2018.
Okay,
What day was that, Terry?
12/27/18.
2018.
and that's
Or
permit number
27.
67153. Yeah, I could pull that from the town's
Yeah.
records and add it to the file.
And that was an amended,
It amended the 65225 that was in
the
here.
previous BP.
And that's what added, that's the permit that it shows adding a 136 square foot roof deck.
Right, but that's a roof deck. The tower was still part of the is a first permit.
Yeah,
The tower is still part of the building permit 6, whatever that is, numbers.
That's the encroachment area.
So if you look at 65225 and you look like the plans and the elevation has
Right.
that tower on it that says 29 feet.
And the area we're looking at is the stairway.
Right there, this is it.
It's not a staircase, what
Not
would
the
that have been
amended
needed
roof.
No,
for?
it's not. And it's showing
Yeah,
a
it's
roof
the,
deck
it's
on
the
there.
stair tower.
Right.
It's showing that, all I'm
It does,
saying is
but-
that's that permit. I'd like to see
But if we have testimony that this building permit is attached to this 62525, whatever it is, I forget the number, these are the plans that are associated with that permit. So this tower was approved per that permit number from the evidence that we have in front of us.
But it doesn't reference, it doesn't, I read a lot of building permits, and a lot of times the building permits will specify a roof deck, which this doesn't.
Well, the 67153 amended
Yeah,
one
right,
does
yeah,
reference
yeah.
that. So I would like to see the
Yeah.
plans, they look like.
Does the roof deck have anything to do with what we're considering right now, though?
Well, I think the tower was built to give access to the roof deck.
Yeah.
But the question is, was if the tower was previously approved,
Right.
the roof deck is
Okay,
secondary.
Maybe.
I'm not
I'd just like
arguing,
to
I'm
see
just
what's
saying
in the
that's the-
building department's record.
no, I'm not here to call anyone's integrity into question, but I think a lot of times when we have to look backwards at issues around what was approved, versus what was built, and something that is so, glaringly outside the code, sometimes it's feels like filling in some of the blanks, knowing a little more from the building department file could be helpful. Again, it's not to impugn anyone or anything. It's that we're trying to piece, through a series of things here. So.
Okay. Is there any other questions from the board?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you just say why the long gap between the completion of the work? Because I see the permits have been renewed and no CO.
I don't know if I can answer that question. That
Okay.
might be a question for the builder.
Yeah, come back and try to answer that question. And I'm still on the road. It has to do with the fact that the builder who started the project and nearly finished it made off with a lot of money and was not to be found.
Mhm.
And this has nothing to do with Lemansky and Southampton Engineering and anything like that, but it has to do with the builder. So another builder, a very reputable fellow that I actually know from Hampton Bays, he worked on a project for me, a historic house in Sag Harbor in 2006. I wasn't aware of it, but he wound up finishing the project. And by finishing it, I mean just finishing details, not building anything. He would do interior finishes. So when the money became the issue, a lot of this just sat for years. And speaking of money, the owners may have also wanted to try to see, well, do I have to renew this permit? Or, I don't know what was going through their minds at the time. I'll tell you, when I leave this meeting, that's one of the first calls I'm going to make is to them. Like, what was that gap about? Remind me of that again.
That's 62.
But when I did get involved in this property, the first thing I did was have them renew the permits. So that's why all of the open permits, if you go to Dawn's file, if you go to the building department file, there are no outstanding permits, that everything is current
I saw that, yes.
and about to expire.
So you have familiarity with the plans that were filed with that building permit?
Only since I started looking at the file in 2024.
So on the plans that were approved for that initial building permit, you have the tower as part of that.
They do.
And in that, appears to be a sliding door that says cable railing around it.
Yes,
Is that the roof deck that we're talking about?
I believe it is.
So why is it you think that there was a subsequent building permit for a roof deck?
I don't know. I can't
Is there
answer
any
that.
other roof deck associated
No,
with this house?
There is not.
I've not seen one either.
Right. Now, I don't want to theorize, but I would be happy to get great, if you want an answer to that question, I'll be happy to get an answer to that question, but I don't have it standing here right now.
But in your professional, if you were to read these plans, you're saying there's a pool deck, there's a roof deck associated with these plans.
You know, I know Steve Lemansky, and he and I have our differences. He once tried to convince Mayor Eppley that an old building was a 20th century building on Pond Lane in Southampton Village, until I showed him that the sill was made with an axe. And that's when, but anyway, but he could not have, he dated all of these drawings. I mean, to the best of what I can
They're
determine, that this was the design that was submitted and approved in 2017.
Okay, thank you,
And I will, again, get you answers to any other questions you have.
thank you. Any other questions? Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? Matt, is there anybody online?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what's the pleasure here? Are we going to leave the record open? I'm saying I'm not interested in leaving the record open, but
I'm saying I am.
should we have a motion?
Is it a big deal?
Jean,
I'm sorry.
are you requesting the record being open?
I mean, if there is any incremental, I don't know how we left it with Morgan, if there was anything incremental from the building department that would be helpful. Otherwise, Terry, what do you want to leave it open for?
I don't know how long it would take Morgan to get there.
I'm not saying I agree to leaving it open. I'm just asking what you're.
I
We're
would
going
think
to have
that
to
would
poll
only
the
be a
board
couple of
first.
days. Okay, we can poll the board. How long do you think it would take you to find that information and
I
plans
could
on
get
that
it in
other
the
one?
file tomorrow.
Yeah, okay,
What's that?
2
I
days.
could get it in the file tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
The poll.
And that's for building permit 67153 that was
Yeah.
issued on.
And
Yeah.
additional information regarding the roof deck?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Moving on in the whole plan.
How long shall the record open for? 2 days?
2 days? You want to?
Okay, make a motion.
All right. In the matter of the
Anyone on the phone?
What?
We did that already.
We already did that. In the matter of the application of Susan Gross and Adam Cohen, I make a motion that we leave the record open for 2 days regarding the building permit issued 12/27/18, Terry? 67153, and any additional information regarding the roof deck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Concur.
Okay, next we have Christopher Leonard at 406 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map number 300-22-1-3.2. The size and location is 135,759 square feet at 406 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, And the description is to construct a balcony within the jurisdiction of the bluff and to allow clearing with associated fence and concrete foundation to remain within minimum wetland setbacks. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code, and 3 variances are required for this application. A variance of 10.4 feet is needed from 255-430 of the East Hampton Town Code to allow clearing to remain 39.6 feet from the wetland where 50 feet is required, and variances of 60.4 feet and 56.3 feet are required to allow a fence and concrete pad to remain 39.6 feet and 43.7 feet from the wetland where 100 feet is the minimum required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A10 residence, X flood zone, VE22 flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of surface and posting?
Yes, I've reviewed the affidavit. Everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm going to
Oh.
recuse myself from this hearing.
Okay, thank you. Yes. We'll ask our alternate, John Thorson, to join us. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Chairman Deline.
How are you doing the
Yeah.
report?
Yeah. Well, this is a close-up of the posting that was out on the Old Montauk Highway. I had another shot, but the sun kind of blared out. You couldn't read it. Next. Oh, there's the other shot. You can't read it, so I took a close-up of it. But this is there's a flag driveway that goes up. You can see the 4 addresses involved with that. Next. Okay, now, there's a very long driveway going up, and part of the items in question are at the south side, and one is sort of on the more northerly side of it. So this is an area where there's a stone driveway. I parked there, and then I just took a shot up. You can see where it says generator. That's a shot in the area of the generator and the pool equipment that are actually from a previous determination. So it's just to give you a setting as for where I am on the property. And I'm going to walk toward the south side of the house where the item is in question for the variance is one of the items. And so I'll take a couple of shots along the way. Next. So walk a little farther up, okay, another shot down across. There's a lot of lawn areas, and this is in the direction, you can see the house in the background. This is toward the direction of where the pool area is. Next, I'm going to continue going south. And this is another go, next. Just another shot of that. Now I'm standing on the side of where the balconies, I think it is, that are need a variance also at the front of the house. I'm looking from east to west on here. This again is from some determination in 2019 with relative to the slate patios and some other work. Next, this is a shot of those 2 second-story doors where they're requesting a balcony variance, and that's just a shot of that. This is on the south side of the house. You can see that they look like they're new windows and doors, which was all permitted, I believe. Next. Now I just turned around just to give you a shot of where the bluff crest is from. I was about halfway between that. And next. Beautiful. And this is a shot now toward the west. You can just see they're very beautiful and a lot of wetlands. Some of the properties to the west here are protected. I think it's, I'm not sure if it's Nature Conservancy, but there's some other properties and a couple of other houses that are in progress also. Next. Okay, so now it came back. Oh, you could skip that one. This is in the pool area, but that's not in scope. Next. Okay, now this is the other area, so I'm in the back down toward the entrance of the, and you can see area to be the square area here. This is the concrete slab that's in question, slab in the foundation. And I'm standing on the north side looking south at that in this enclosed area where the fence is. Next, I'm just going to go to the other end and shoot back in the other direction. So you have the slab and the grassy area and then the fence. Next, a shot toward the west, which is where the wetland in question is, and that wetland also, well, there are wetlands beyond the scope, the edge of the property, but this is where the concrete pad is looking for the variance from that wetland in that area. And I might have taken another wetland shot, did I? Yeah, it's just slightly more westerly, northerly direction. It's hard to see anything in there. And there is a fence along there too, where that does span and go across the wetland that you can't really see from here. In any of the photos, you can't see it, but it is in the TAM. And that this is just at the edge of the driveway. You can see where this flag lot sits out, and there's another house being built up on that area. So just another shot of that and the gate. And that should be it.
Thank you. Britton, how are you? You announce yourself.
I'm Britton Bistrian.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, so help me
Thank
God. Good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm Britton Bistrian, here representing Christopher and Catherine Leonard, owners of the parcel of land at 406 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk. Catherine and her daughter are actually in the audience this evening. They're the only people in the audience this evening. As sort of described by Member Berger, there was some nomenclature I want to make sure we're clear on. There are no variances for the balconies. We are seeking one NRSP for one balcony. The other balcony is outside of jurisdiction, and variance relief to allow that concrete area, the concrete slab. It's actually a trampoline. It's an on-grade trampoline. So I don't know if that was, it wasn't entirely obvious in that photograph, but it's a concrete wall, like almost with a 4 foot deep, and then there's this trampoline that sits in it, and there's just padding around the edge. So it's safer than having an above ground trampoline that you can fall off of, and it's a liability and all that. So we're here seeking the NRSP relief for the 54 square foot balcony, as well as allowing a concrete slab and fencing that makes up a child's play area to remain. I noted that the other balcony is out of jurisdiction, and the balcony that is within jurisdiction is only 7 feet in jurisdiction. So it's not a huge NRSP territory. The existing house was constructed in 2003, and everything constructed less the play area is covered under the most recently issued CO, which was in 2020. This proposal doesn't include any additions to the residence, any increase in roof coverage. It's simply 2 modest additions to make the house more livable for my client's enjoyment. There is no increase of use, no septic flow, no clearing or ground disturbance as a result of this NRSP and variance. The balconies are stacked above an existing slate patio that you saw, so nothing is occurring. They're cantilevered, nothing's occurring on the ground. Balcony, excuse me, it's hard to separate the two. The variance for the play area is self-created, but it's existing, and not that we should, overlook that. But only revegetation will result in it remaining. And that was submitted in the most recent map that came in March 25th. I'm hoping that's what you're looking at. To balance the variance request, we propose to remove almost half of the gray hair, about half of the grass play area and the fencing, and reducing it only to the area of the concrete slab and a 4 foot access pass so that you could access it, jump on the trampoline and leave, and try and restore at least half of that back. That restoration is 1,145 square feet of revegetation to balance this request. We also agree to the condition that came up in the TAM that would remove the fence from the wetland area, although I want to recognize that it legally exists and it's covered under the 2020 CO, but we will remove that as a condition of the approval for the variances for the trampoline to remain. Understanding that request, the fencing was not integrated into the March 2025 survey. Should the board see it fit, we could we could make a new survey submission, or you could make it a condition of approval, however you want to handle that, showing that portion of fencing that transverses a wetland, it's something along the lines of 10 linear feet. It's a pretty nominal number. We'd be willing to remove. Just in summation, it's a pretty minor project on a large 3-acre oceanfront parcel in Montauk. The parcel itself is developed, but if you look at the metrics of development, they are a fraction of the allowable when it comes to GFA, clearing, coverage, and they're not asking for anything else. They're not asking to add on to the house. Just want to make it have balconies on the ocean side. I mean, that's not an unreasonable request. There's no second floor view shed. There's no second floor decks. It's only that first floor patio, and they are, south facing on the ocean. So we would ask for the board to grant the NRSP for the 54 square foot balcony, as well as the variances for the play area to remain for the enjoyment of both the owner's family and the neighborhood family. I believe there was a letter in your file of support from a neighbor. And the board saw that?
Yes.
Great. And other than that, I stand ready to answer any questions that you board may have.
Any questions?
No, for me.
I have, I just want to get clear, the fence that's transversing the wetlands, you're going to remove, how much of it, what's being removed?
Sometimes. Okay, it's this little tiny section right here. It's about, I would say it's between probably around 8 to 10 feet.
But it's going all.
So you're offering to remove the fencing that goes through the wetland?
Correct. It was on the 2020 survey. It's covered under a CO. It came up in the TAM. It's not something the board condones. It's something that we can offer for mitigation for the granting of the variances in addition to the revegetation. I feel like it's a good balancing.
And you're also offering to remove the fencing around the play area?
Correct. Just so that it would just be, the fencing gets removed, and the only thing that remains is the access path gets shortened to a 4-foot and re-vegged on both sides, and then just remaining the trampoline with the concrete.
So everything that's shown in red will be, that you offer to revegetate?
Correct, 1,145 square feet.
And what about the hedges that go around the area, to be removed as well?
The hedges that surround this area?
Yeah, I think the fence is inside a hedge around the play area.
Well, if they're revegetating, it has to be vegetation that is approved
Native.
vegetation.
Yeah, I'd like to work that out with the planning department in a re-veg plan. I think we could probably do that, find something that is appropriate species.
Brittany, you gave us I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You gave us the re-veg number, the 1,100 plus. Can you just say, just so I have it, what is the remaining part of the slab with the trampoline? What's the square footage of that? Do you know? It's obviously less than the 1,100, but.
I mean, visually, it looks like about a third.
Right. Okay, just wondering.
If I had to guess, but I can calculate it out for you. It's pretty small. I would say it's 300 square feet around.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Terry. I
Any other
interrupted you.
locations considered for moving that trampoline? There's a
It's
lot of
hard not-
space in this property.
Not to
That
cause
would be
more
better.
clearing, or, the bluff side, the south side of the house is obviously all within the NRSP jurisdiction, so that would be tough. And then you have that wetland that goes up the west side, which puts that, 150 foot, 100 foot, literally the only other location is like in the driveway, which would not be somewhere you want a kid's trampoline.
No.
There isn't another good location. And it's there. So not that we should condone that it's there, but removing it and building it somewhere else probably causes more disturbance than just letting it be and revegetating
Pretty
next to
large
it.
variance, so, okay, well, we'll hear from the planner on that.
Okay, I'll step aside for Morgan.
Morgan?
Hello again, Morgan Slater for the Planning Department. I'm just going to give a bit of an overview of the environmental constraints of this lot and a bit of the history of the residence. It's a pretty unique area in town. So The property is within the moorlands of Montauk, and that is characterized by a unique dwarf forest habitat that consists of a canopy of short trees and shrubs with an extensive wetland system that is composed of perched ponds, swamps, and marshes that are occasionally interconnected by permanent and seasonal streams. The house was constructed in 2003 following a pretty thorough environmental review in the late 80s, which the board rendered an approval for. And it looks like the CO for the residence was issued in 2008. The property was most recently in front of the board in 2019, and it received an NRSP to allow existing clearing and as-built accessory structures to remain as constructed. The planning department had advised back in 2019 that the existing clearing on the property consisted of a fairly large area and that a large buffer to the wetland should remain intact, and the department's stance has not changed for this application. Since this is a request to allow additional clearing that is in even closer proximity to the wetland than what was approved in 2019. Part of that large area of clearing that was approved in 2019 is kind of a similarly sized cleared area that is more to the south, that is adjacent to the pool. And from my site visits, that's mostly just lawn. There are wetland-dependent wildlife species of special concern known to inhabit this part of Montauk, so preserving wetland buffers wherever possible should be prioritized. When compared to the 2020 CO clearing limits, the application or the current survey is requesting 2,349 square feet of total additional clearing. It's hard to tell exactly. It's probably it's a cumulative amount. And I did do a quick area calculation of the requested cleared area, and it's about 650 square feet, and that includes the area of the trampoline. So let's see. Oh, there was some, and it looks like there was some additional clearing around like the driveway parking area, which is kind of the second largest area of clearing. And I do want to point out that this most recent survey, which is March 25th, 2025, it looks like the balconies may have inadvertently been left off of this survey. So I don't know if the board may want to request to have those added before rendering a determination, just that way the survey reflects all the relief that is being requested. And again, only one of them is within NRSP jurisdiction. And I think that's it. Board has any questions about the property, I'll be happy to answer them.
As far as the fence, can you comment on Britton saying that the fence to the wetland was CO'd and?
That is correct information. The fence appears on the approved survey associated with the 2019 approval. The determination doesn't have any language referencing that fence, so it was ultimately overlooked, I think we can conclude. And then it does appear on the CO associated with that work also.
Okay, and then as far as the removal of the portion of it that just transverses the wetland, do you have any other recommendation as far as the fencing? It's still...
I think, you know, keeping any structures out of the wetland buffer is preferable, especially since there are species of special concern like the spotted turtle and blue spotted salamander that have been, at least I've seen a spotted turtle in wetlands around this area, and the salamander is known to also use it as a habitat. So, you know, the migration of wildlife is kind of important with this habitat. I think the planning department wouldn't be opposed to a relocation of the fence further from the wetland. You know, the survey does have like a plus or minus notation next to the fence location, so I can only assume that that may mean that's not a super precise location of the fence, but we certainly do not recommend that it continues going through the wetland in perpetuity.
Morgan, could you go back and just go through again a little bit of the history related to the clearing? Obviously, we see the existing limits is 30,067 proposed. We see that. But can you just shape again a little bit of the history related to the last CO?
Yeah, I think I might have to.
I think I can read what's, it's very tiny in the.
Yeah, I can pull it up on the screen.
Can you just...
It's not a great version. The scan is a little off. It's not because it's not a digital copy, But the 2020 CO has clearing limits of 26,573 square feet.
And it just sort of happened little by little over.
I
We don't
can
know.
only
Okay.
speak to, what's
Right.
shown on the survey that we have.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Now, just going back to that, the other suggested, you said near the pool in that grassy area. So that would, if the trampoline were to be moved to there, that would take it out of variance.
I believe that that is
Right.
certainly a more conforming location.
To where?
Where exactly is
Say
that?
that
Yeah.
again, Terry?
It's this
Sorry.
little rectangular cleared area right here.
This, yeah, this grassy area here up by the pool, where we had given the variance in 2019 for the pool equipment and the
Mhm.
generator. Yeah, no, RSP rather.
I just want to address two things that were just discussed for the record. The clearing on the property, first of all, the current owner's purchases in 2020, so the 2019 application in front of this board was a previous owner.
Right.
So I just wanted to highlight that there's some accessory structures that the previous owner had added, but that was not this owner. And that the clearing, you're allowed on this property 36,923. If it's not within 50 feet to wetlands, there's no approval that's required by this board. So you're allowed to do more clearing within your clearing limits without an NRSP. I just want to, and we're proposing, the existing limits are 30,000 and change, and we're proposing 28,922. So we are reducing, increasing, I always get confused with that. We're reducing the amount of
Yeah.
clearing.
I just wanted a little historical context.
And I don't know
it was a
what,
prior
I
owner.
don't know how the balconies, my version has the balconies on it, so sometimes layers get turned off. So I'm definitely,
It might
You
just be
have-
the digital, and maybe it's just the digital.
Yeah, it might be.
The paper.
but I'm happy to submit a survey that shows the balconies and the removal of the fence that we just discussed, so that the board has a clean record. Because you do have a survey in your file that shows the balconies
I did see
and the
that, yeah.
setbacks, conforming on one of them and the other one within NRSP jurisdiction. So I'm happy to do that if you give me.
Was there any, oh, go ahead.
Well, you have current permit to do all those windows and doors that were shown.
That was already, I believe that was already closed out. Yeah, that was under a building permit. It was just a replacement of windows in place in kind. So there's a permit.
Windows, but it looked like doors. Well, where's your balcony gonna go? Isn't it out of doors?
Those are,
Doors.
on the, they're gonna be doors.
There need some doors listed on the permit, but I don't know if that matters.
Well, they're not there. There's no balcony. Right, so if the balcony were to be approved, we would need to have doors to access them.
Okay.
Is there any thought about taking that fence that traverses the wetlands, routing it around the wetlands a little bit more?
I don't see why that's not acceptable as a condition of approval. If it improves the application, absolutely.
Morgan, you want to kind of refer what you?
Yeah, I think the
looking-
planning department would just recommend that if the fence is relocated, it's relocated to the east rather than the west.
East.
Because it would, these wetlands are kind of all interconnected. So in some way or other, they're groundwater. It's kind of one large habitat.
Yeah, I don't think there's any room on this because that property line is right there. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Move it to the west,
Thank you.
east, east. Towards the lighthouse.
Any other questions, board members?
I don't have any.
Anybody in the public would like to add? Anybody online?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
How about our trampoline expert out there?
Say, do we want to talk about our trampoline?
Thank you. Can we have a motion then?
All right, so for the application of Christopher Leonard at 406 Old Montauk Highway, tax map 300-22-1-3.2, make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second?
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that an extra?
Yeah, you can
I
have
put
it.
it in my
You
pocket.
can have it.
All right, thank you. We have next, we'll go into some post-hearing decisions. We have John Meehan, 69 Benson Drive, Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-30-1-22. Last week, we had a motion to open the record. We've now reviewed the letter that was submitted to us. Board members, you want to entertain discussion on this?
I should start by saying I previously approved it and the other location. So it's really,
You approved
I was
it.
the one
Okay.
approval of this.
Oh, I forgot that.
Terry, you want to opine on this?
Yeah, well, I'm still a little confused, or what I'd like to talk about more is they've seemingly offered another 62 square feet. And I guess on this diagram, the way they've noted it, I'd like to know like exactly how much is actually, how much decking is on this in its totality, and the way they mark this out with this 52 square feet, exactly how they're arriving at that. It doesn't look completely clear to me. And there's this first story deck, now they're adding to that. And maybe the planner can help us see what the
Morgan, you
exact
know
number is.
what they're
on all
referring
of
to?
this. And how they came up with the new variance amount?
I am not sure. I wish I could help you a little bit, but
I was almost wondering if maybe we should have another hearing on it. How anybody feels on that.
I have questions too.
You want to raise them?
Well,
Oh, you mean,
just like Terry, I have similar questions. Maybe not tonight to make it, think about it, or Terry's suggestion, another, I don't know. Go ahead, Terry, I'll go when you're done.
Well, yeah, I'm done because I'm confused. 23.3 feet to 33.6.
That's my question too.
So here's the 23.3 and here's the 33.6.
Mhm.
So I'm not clear on whether they're saying this is all going to be just revegetation with no walkway or decking.
And what does that equate to in terms of a variance request?
And this would say, yeah, and I don't know if where they want to add the first story deck on beyond where it exists today, what kind of variance that is. They go into this corner of the house.
so they're removing that part of the deck.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This part, the red hatched part.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
What
And they're
red hatch
and they're
part?
re-vegging that, right? They're
Yes.
removing this deck right
Is that where
there.
they're putting the 50 feet,
52 feet.
52 feet of additional reveg? Where they're,
right.
where they're
Correct. That's-
taking out,
that's-
So there's
that's my
going to be
understanding.
no walkway,
That's what I
no
understood, too.
decking from there.
that's what I
And that was
thought.
part of the deck.
Okay.
Correct. He was,
So he's going back, if you kind of look at it they're going back to where the blue is on the other survey, back to here. there's going to be no walkway here.
That's correct.
That's correct? And that comes out to the 52 feet, and should we get confirmation on the variance?
The 28.3 feet, they're increasing this, that's what you're questioning, right?
Well, it
Takes it to
was,
the, takes
It
it
was
to the,
23,
was 76.7 foot.
right, 23.3
Now,
down.
if it's the 33.6, I mean, I get where Terry's coming from. I was having the same discussion with myself. What would the variance request be now?
100 minus that, wouldn't it?
Right. So it would be 67?
Well,
Something like
66.4, I
60,
guess,
yeah,
66.4.
66.4.
But then all of the, okay, so then here, where we're adding this first story deck, isn't there still a variance to those wetlands for that?
Yeah, it would be in jurisdiction.
I would think. So what is that variance? It's not marked on here.
Right.
That's why I was looking for
And-
some assistance from the planning department to maybe.
All right,
help
can we,
enlighten us on that?
can we do this? Can we list, maybe we should list what our concerns are and maybe come back at our next meeting and discuss it? I mean,
Then we're going to have to reopen the record to take in more info.
Yeah, but I think that's a good idea. There's some question.
Close right now?
Yeah, we opened and closed it.
Yeah, we did close the record.
Yeah.
If it's questions like this, like calculations, I would be comfortable with having the planning department scale it out and provide that to the board. I don't think that the record needs to be reopened for that necessarily. That's kind of some of the stuff I even do on the back end when I do some of the
right,
determinations.
so maybe we can do that, get some clarification from planning on this.
If there's,
I just don't think we're prepared to to have this conversation this evening.
can I make a suggestion then?
Yes.
Do you want Morgan to see if she can do a version of like how this plan would impact the requested relief, right? So change the way that that they draft those, for example, when they do the notices of public hearing. She can email that to the board. We can copy the applicant on it. If you have any more questions, don't ask them in the email, just tell Morgan, and then what we'll have to do is do that, reopen the hearing. But I think if it's just like tabulations and information, like those numbers to you guys, that can just be given to you by email.
Yeah, but I wouldn't include, I mean, you can send him a separate email, but I don't want the,
I think what council is struggling is that we don't debate this by email back and forth.
correct. And I'm also
so I
saying,
think
I don't
that's
want the
the big one.
attorney on the email
No,
with
no.
this board.
I just want them to have the same email that the board receives.
They can get a separate email.
They can get a separate email.
So I don't need to articulate my questions now. I can email them to.
No, okay, if you have different questions that are outside of what the board was just discussing, then we need to reopen it. I thought,
Well, with this, the planning board can
We
determine how
cannot,
much the
if the record is closed,
total
we cannot.
decking is, can't they?
Well, this is why reopening records is a slippery slope.
Okay,
because
well, the
we have
math is
right
easy.
to
Someone can
ask
do it.
more questions.
so sure, so then let's,
So we also have the right to have another hearing if we choose to, if it comes to a vote.
Correct.
any of those options are available to the board. I was getting the impression, but I guess I was wrong, that the question was, how does this new plan impact the requested relief?
So
If
here's,
there are additional questions, then
here's the way I look at it. We had a hearing, we had a decision. The applicant then came back to give us a recommendation to improve the application. That's it. He's not coming, we're not entering a further discussion about this. I think we're asked to make a decision based on that. If we want clarification from planning, I agree with that. Let's get some clarification on the variances. But I don't think the intent here is to reopen the case. I think we would have enough to make a conversation based on the information they gave us. We're just asking for clarification. Am I right? There's no sense rehearing this
Yeah, I'd like to know
application
the exact numbers
entirely.
that we're looking at to make.
Yeah, let's
and
hear
then we
from
just-
planning first before we
Yeah.
make another decision.
I mean, the revegetation plan, I think, has a dimension that the survey submitted does not have, which is the 33.6. The 33.6 that's mentioned in the cover letter is not shown on the survey, but it's shown on the revegetation plan. So I didn't handle this application, so I'm kind of going off of what's in front of me right now. And based on, the letter, it sounds like they reduced that one variance from the 23.3 to the 33.6. But the 23.3 is still, because I guess that they're cutting it back. So essentially this area right here was deck in the original application, and they're removing it, which then causes a 33.6 setback, and this 23.31 is eliminated. So it still looks like there's going to be setbacks of 28.3 to the staircase here, and then 25.1 feet to the landing there. So this 28.3, I believe, is eliminated.
But the 28.3 is going to the 28.3 feet. That's related to the,
Oh, that's the second story
deck.
The second story wood deck. Okay, so
but it's
that's
also related to a first-story deck, because if I remember from Member Berger's field report, built underneath that second-story deck, which was part of, I think, the original approval on the house, is a brand-new first-floor deck. So that 28.3, I think, I don't know, relates to the first floor deck that was built under the second story deck, because now that they're cutting off or proposing to cut off that red hatched area.
Yes, it looks.
I guess that construction that has to be legalized, I think, is still a 28, still requires a 72 roughly, variance.
Yes.
I think that's the issue. I think we just really need to nail down, because whether I'm sticking with my decision or changing my decision, I want to really be precise on what I'm or I'm not approving. And there is structure on the ground, decking, that when they remove this thing, if they remove this, that it lines up with the second story deck.
I believe that's what the survey does depict, with the exception of this blue rectangle right here.
I mean, those stairs are existing, right, to the second story deck.
Yes.
I think we're asking for a memo from you confirming that and for confirming the distances. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have April Taylor at 419 East Lake Drive, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-6-2-19, and that's a revegetation plan. Morgan?
Condition of approval was for them to submit a revegetation plan of just the scenic easement, actually. So this is a little bit more extensive than what the condition requires. I don't know if I'll refresh the board's memory. I'll show the survey that has the easement depicted that the board had requested as a condition of approval, which is right here. And the revegetation totals to about 350 square feet in that area, which is depicted here. The planning department is satisfied with the revegetation plan.
Any comments, board members?
No, I can't read that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking at.
We
I mean, I know
don't
what
need a
I'm looking
motion
at,
on
but
that, do we?
I
don't
guess I'm
think so.
relying on the planning department to say they're satisfied.
We're good with April 10th.
We're all okay with the revegetation
We
plan.
could give it thumbs up.
Thank you.
You're satisfied.
We're satisfied with it.
That's legally sound.
Can't read it.
We have an extension of time for Foglia at 22 South Geneva Street, Court, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-28-3-13. That's an extension of a 2021 determination. Board members?
The work on this permit is complete. I'm just going to share the aerial. So the extension of time is to obtain a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, that's, I'm okay with
Fine,
it.
so it's
Thank
all
you.
done.
Is that the current aerial?
This is the 2024 aerial.
We have a motion?
Yeah, all right. So for Foglia at 22 South Geneva Court, Montauk, tax map 300-28-03-013, make a motion to approve the extension of time.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have the draft minutes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes from Tuesday, April 1st for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
I concur.
Concur. All right, we have resolutions this evening. We have rally at 69 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-32-4-20.
Rowley was a case that we had a decision on, a denial on an extension of a deck, and then they asked to have the record open and came back and added an additional 200 square feet of re-veg in the most critical area. With that said, there were two changes of votes, which made it an approval, and I believe it was a 4-to-1 approval. So I would like to make a motion then in the case of Rowley at 69 Seaside Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-32-4-20 to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Next, we have Hampton Lane, LLC at 31 Hampton Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-174-5-18. Member Mehring?
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, you'll remember that this was an application in Beach Hampton for an owner who acquired the property not that long ago to legalize a number of structures that were put in place prior to their taking ownership. I won't go through, I think there were 10 variances altogether. There was side yard, pyramid, setbacks and things like that. And then there was a clearing variance from 50 feet from the wetlands requested. And then also the only new work that they were coming for approval on was a shed, the storage shed. And so there were variances and an NRSP. All of the elements were approved except for the clearing within the 50 feet. We made some specifications, conditions of approval related to the front yard patio, stone patio, as well as there's a granting of a scenic easement, and the board has requested revegetation within a large portion of that scenic easement, not counting the dune land. So I've read the resolution as written, and by the way, not everything was unanimous on all of the different variances. I'm not going through now. So I've read the resolution as written, and in the matter of Hampton Lane LLC, 31 Hampton Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-174-5-18, I move for its approval as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have Tripp at 65 Wood Drive in Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-68-9-6.
That's me, isn't it, Terry? Yeah.
Well, you can go ahead.
Okay, Tripp was back in front of us. That was an approval from a year ago. They were here because they had an approval to complete a deck, and when they, under construction, they extended out a little further. This was a lot that had a very strange property line that followed an old file map where the road had a configuration it doesn't now have. We decided to approve this change, this modification, because there was a significant amount of protective vegetative buffer, and it was not a very large number.
And the modifications could change it from 9.5 to
Go ahead.
5. Yeah, did you say that? I didn't.
No, I didn't say that, but thank you for saying it.
Okay.
Then in the case of Tripp, 65 Wood Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-68-9-6, I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have Hispaniola Trusted LLC at 9 Shipwreck Drive, Amagansett, at Suffolk Tax Map 300-152-2-8.36. Member
Yep,
Mary?
thank you. I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we reviewed this request for a modification to a prior approval. I believe the main elements were removing an accessory structure, refurbishing or rebuilding the pool and place it in kind. And I think there was an attachment of 2 accessory, the pool house and the garage with a roof over it. And I believe we were unanimous in approving that modification. So in the matter of Hispaniola Trust LLC, 9 Shipwreck Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-152-2-8.36, I make a motion to adopt the, or accept the determination resolution as written.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
I'd
And
like
now
to make-
we have to make an
vote to-
adjournment and
Oh.
go into executive session for a legal matter. So we can make that.
I'll make a motion first to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn the zoning board of appeals on April 8th, 2025 at 7:45 PM. And I make a motion to go into executive session regarding a legal matter.
Second it.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur.